today we have a special segment where we will be interviewing two witnesses of Santiago Nassar's murder. I would like to introduce Davina Flor and Angela Vicario.
Thank you for having us today, Alex.
It's great to be here.
At this point, you both know the reason for why you are here today. The people would like to know your side of the story when it comes to Santiago Nassar's gruesome death. I'm going to interview both of you separately and then together at the end. Who would like to go first?
I will go first, Alex.
Okay, let's get started. Angela, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Hello, I'm Angela Vicario and I live in Colombia with my family.
Thank you, Angela. I'm going to start off by asking some simple questions. How do you know Santiago?
Santiago and I have been acquaintances since we were young. All of the children that grew up in the community were close with one another.
Were you and Santiago close around the time of his death?
I wouldn't say we were close, but once again we were acquaintances. I invited Santiago to my wedding, which took place the night before his death.
Was Santiago intoxicated the night of your wedding?
Yes, Santiago showed up 2 hours late to the wedding and he already had the smell of tequila on his breath. He had a lot to drink while he was at my wedding as well. After Santiago had left, I heard from some townspeople that he was dancing and singing all throughout the night. Even though Santiago was drunk, I still had an amazing time marrying Bayardo, even though it didn't work out.
Can you tell me why the marriage between you and Bayardo didn't work out?
Well, in my culture, it is known to lose your virginity the night of your wedding. To the man that you had married, when you lose your virginity, you're supposed to bleed on the sheet and then hang the sheet outside of your house so the townspeople know you've lost your virginity to the husband. I didn't bleed.
That means Bayardo wasn't the one who had taken your virginity, correct?
That's correct.
What happened when Bayardo found out you weren't a virgin?
Bayardo was furious. He kept yelling at me to tell him who I had been with, but I didn't tell him. He then brought me back to my parents' house and told my mother what had happened. She beat me until I was black and blue because she was so furious that I dishonored the family.
Then what happened?
My brothers Pablo and Pedro got home. Pedro, the more forceful of the brothers, picked me up by the waist and set me on the table and told me to tell him who it was. I told him it was Santiago Nassar.
Is it true that Santiago took your virginity? Investigators speculate that you had lied to your brothers and that Santiago did not take your virginity. Instead, it was someone else.
That is ridiculous. I cannot believe that you're even accusing me of that.
Since that is a sensitive topic, let's move on to another question. Did you know what your brothers had planned?
No, of course not. If I had known that my brothers were going to kill someone, don't you think I would have stopped it? My brothers were furious and didn't have a rational thought in their head.
Okay, that's all the questions we have for you today, Ms. Vicario. Thank you for being here and answering our questions.
Of course. Thank you for listening to my side of the story.
Now we would like to ask Davina a few questions. Davina, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, my name is Davina Flor and I live in Colombia with my mother.
And can you tell me a little bit about your mother and what she does for a living?
My mother, Victoria Guzman, the cook for the Nassar family. She would bring me to work with her, so I spent a lot of time at the Nassar house.
Do you have a good relationship with the Nassar family?
I wouldn't say I was close with the family. I was familiar with Santiago.
How was your relationship with Santiago?
As I said before, we weren't close. Santiago had an unusual desire for me.
How so?
It was a sexual desire. There were many uncomfortable moments with Santiago while we were alone. The morning of Angela Vicario's wedding, Santiago had grabbed my arm and said, "The time has come for you to be tamed," as I was taking his empty mug away.
Was your mother around when Santiago had said that to you? If so, how did she react?
Yes, my mother showed him the bloody knife and then said, "Let go of her, white man. You won't have a drink of that water as long as I'm alive."
That must have been traumatizing for you. You and your mother must have had an underlying hatred for Santiago then. Can you tell me a little bit about the morning of Santiago's death?
Of course, the morning of Santiago's death, there was a suspicion that Santiago was going to be murdered by the Vicario twins, but many said it was just a hoax.
Can you tell me what else?
When the time had come, Santiago had walked out of the front door. Santiago's mother had locked the door, thinking he was upstairs.
Why did she believe he was upstairs?
Well, she asked me and my mother where Santiago was. I looked at my mother and she gave me a strange look, like she wanted me to lie. to Mrs. Nassar. So I told her that Santiago was upstairs.
Why do you think your mother wanted you to lie? And do you believe that Santiago could have been saved if you and your mother had let Mrs. Nassar know that he was actually outside?
I believe that my mother was trying to save me from the abuse I was receiving from Santiago, and I could not tell you what could have happened. All I know is what actually happened.
Thank you for your honesty, Davina. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our interview. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having us, Alex.
Thank you.